Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Easy SAP ABAP. Today we're going to show you how to use message classes so that we can have text that is translatable for our SAP ABAP report programs. So most of you guys are familiar at this point with text symbols, which if we come up here, I just have a brand new program, report, z_message_class. We go to go-to and then text elements. We can, maintain our text symbols and text elements for this particular program. But the limitation with text elements, selection text, all this stuff, is that we can only maintain this for one program. So, text symbols are maintained locally, so they can only be used in that program. But if we need to share message text across multiple programs, and maybe even related programs. So let's say, our guys over in finance need, a certain set of message text, and we can reuse those texts across multiple programs that we create for our finance programs. We can create a message class that houses all those texts. So then, if we do need to translate that, it's all in one place, and they can be shared across multiple programs. So that's something that the message classes are created for. So to create a message class, we need to go over here on my right session over here. We need to do transaction SE91. So a message class is in the customer namespace. It starts with a Z or a Y. So we'll just call this one, let's just say ZMSG, Z message. Click on create. We're going to enter some short text, so we'll just say messages. Let's just say generic message class. So this will be something that a company would have. They put their company name here instead of MSG. So Z, whatever your company name is. And this would be just a generic message class that they could use for multiple reports. So now we've created the short text. Now we need to create an actual message. So it's going to prompt us for a package. I'll choose local object because we're not going to transport this to a productive system. And just like your text elements, your text symbols, it's going to start here. Message, 000. It's going to go all the way down. You can have 1,000 different messages within a message class. So all the way from 000 to 999. And another thing, let's just go ahead and create one message. Let's just say input parameters not sufficient. That's pretty self-explanatory. Whatever the user input isn't sufficient, and that can be, a warning message, an error message, whatever. So this self-explanatory checkbox allows us to dictate whether this message here explains itself or whether it needs more explanation. So let's come down here for 001 and say, I don't know, something that it's not self-explanatory. So we'll say parameter XYZ not defined for selection. And maybe this isn't self-explanatory. So we're given the option for this particular text that's not self-explanatory to add some long text. And long text is going to be, we'll go ahead and click save. We'll just click the long text button up here. It's going to go ahead and allow us to add more descriptive text. You see, this is the integrated Word editor, the Microsoft Word editor. If you want to use the regular SAP script editor, you can come here and go to go-to and change editor, whichever one's more comfortable for you to use. And using basically SAP script, more or less, we can define a long text for this error. So we can say cause, I don't even know what I called this thing. What did I call it? Parameter XYZ not defined for selection. So cause, go back, might have to click allow. We'll go ahead and do it in the old SAP script editor because some of you might still be running on a system where that's the only option. Cause, parameter XYZ is not sufficient. System response, system, I don't know. Could not execute. Call what to do. Say define correct XYZ parameter and then a message right here for the system administrator. So we'll say, check program Z123 for handling parameter, Z12341, whatever it is. So now we can go ahead and activate this long text, go back, check and see if we have any issues here. No inconsistencies were found. So now this is the basics of a message class. There are 2 messages within this message class. We can go ahead and save it. Saving not required, object was not changed. I guess when we did check, we're all good to go here. So if we back out and then go to display again, we can see our messages. So in a program, there's 2 different ways we can go about using messages in a message class. We can globally define a message class particularly for an entire program, or if we wanted to use a specific message class in one part of our program and a specific message class in another, we can do this 2 different ways. So the first way I'll go ahead and show you now is we'll just, in our report, we'll say message, and then we need to choose the message type. So if it's information, it's I, error is E. So we're just going to say this is an error message, so message E, and then we need our message number. So in our message class, Z message, this is E000, and we need to define the message class that we're using in parentheses. So now we can just go ahead and say it like this. So message E000, check our program, activate it, and then we'll go ahead and run it after it's activated. And we get an error message down here, input parameters not sufficient. So let's just go back to SE38, say Z message class. So we've created an error message, which is dictated by this prefix of E, and it is message number 000 in our message class Z message over here, and this is where we define the message class to use. So we could just as easily come back and change this E to an I if we wanted to give an information message, a message of type information instead of type error, do direct processing, and we see here input parameters not sufficient in an information type message. If we click on help, we can see that we're not going to get, since this is a self-explanatory message, we're going to get something pretty generic here. We're just going to get message number ZMSG, which is our message class, and the message actual number 000. So that might not be something that we want. Maybe we want something a little bit more explanatory. We'll say instead message 001, which we have defined long text for, and it's not checked as self-explanatory. So whenever a user sees this message, they should get, this right here. The short text, the diagnosis, system response, procedure, and procedure for system administrator, which we've all defined in our SAP script type long text. So we'll go ahead, and since I just did display over here and did long text, it's just going to display it. Of course, if I was in edit mode, selected our message and click long text, it's going to actually give us that editor, either the Word-based editor or the SAP script editor. So in our program, same deal. If we go over here, check it, activate it, and run it, we can see the same thing here. And a user might say, well, I don't know what that means. Let me click on help. They can click on help, and they get our long text that we've provided in our message class. So that's one reason why message classes are a way better option if you're trying to make detailed messages with help that you can use for being able to show more detail to the end user. And you can't do that with text symbols or text elements if we were just to go to the go-to and do text elements from there. So I mentioned there were 2 ways that we could go ahead and use these. Go ahead and make sure it's check, activate it. We'll just go back to display. We can do it this way. We can say, it's information and give our message number, and we can give our message class, or we can actually define the message class for a specific report. And the addition to report up here we want to use is message-id and then Z message. So now down here we don't have to define the particular message class. We can say message I001. So now if we check it, activate it, and run our report, we get our information message. And this is all without having to define, at the time we're going to display this message, we don't have to define the message class. It's defined here globally for the report. So that's another benefit of message classes. We can go ahead and define our messages, and you can define it globally for our program, and then call them very simply like this. So one more thing that I wanted to talk about for message classes, a lot of this stuff you can look at documentation. You can go to the ABAP documentation or find it online. But one more thing I wanted to highlight why message classes are just so darn nifty is, let's make another one, message 002. We can say the ampersand character, and that is like a placeholder character in our message class. So we can say ampersand is not correct. And what's going to happen, go ahead and check it and save it. What we can do, and we can do this via using the message ID or the other way where you have the parentheses and the name of the message class. Either one works. So we'll say message I002, and then we have the addition with, and we can put a variable in here, and that variable is going to be replacing any of these ampersand characters. So we can say in here field 1, go ahead, check it, activate it, and then we can run it, and we say field 1 is not correct. So what's happening is at runtime, it's looking up this message from the message class. We use the with addition on our message statement, and it's replacing that parameter with whatever we specified. So you can make really reusable messages here. So I could say with field 1, I can say with, I don't know, parameter 15. Check it, activate it, and then we can go ahead and run it. And so I get this message here, parameter 15 is not correct. So that's some of the reusability. If we have a generic message class, we can have something like this, where this pretty much applies to almost any report that you're going to make. Something is not correct, something is not valid. And now instead of having to create a whole new text element that says that particular field is not valid, we can use this generic message, ampersand is not correct, and we can use this with addition and define at runtime either this, or we can use a variable. We don't have to use a string literal here or a character literal. So a lot of times too, you'll see, for example, message 003, we can do ampersand, ampersand, ampersand. Go ahead and check that and save it. So I can say in here message I003 with, and I can add different additions. So I can say field 1, field 2, field 3. Check it, activate it, and run it. And we get this, where each ampersand has been replaced by our text, our actual literal, or our variable, whatever we have in our program, with the value that we pass to it. So that's a good beginner's introduction to message classes. There's a few more things you can do in there. The with addition is definitely very, very useful. So, you can say something like, user ampersand has object ampersand locked, or something of that nature, and you can go ahead and display it dynamically with a reusable message class that you might be able to reuse against multiple programs. So that's really, really neat. Like I said, it makes translation very, very easy. If you have a whole slew of programs that use the same message class, you don't have to worry about each individual program. You can translate that message class and be sure that any sort of message, so long as the developer uses message classes and text symbols, is going to go ahead and it's going to be easily translatable for multiple languages. So that's the gist of using message classes. It's there's a few more things in here. We can do translation, documentation, but that's the main things I want you to take from this is that we can define generic messages where it's self-explanatory, a little bit more complicated message where we might want some long text. We can have placeholders, multiple placeholders, And that's what we can do using our message class. And again, that transaction is SE91. And we just create or modify an existing message class. And then in our report, we can do message ID, zMessage, or if we didn't have a message ID globally, we wanted to use multiple message classes, we could place it in parentheses here, do zMessage. And that's going to be the same effect, except for we could have multiple message classes in one report program. So that's about it, guys. If you have any questions on message maintenance, message classes, any of the different features, or anything like that at all, please leave me a comment. My email is somewhere in the video description or on my channel. You can reach out to me there. Thank you all for watching. If you liked, please go ahead and give this video a like, give me a subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.